Okay, to make the standard rethreaded figure 8 knot, this is how you do it. You take the rope like that with approximately 1 meter of rope there, hold it in a bight like that, turn it round once, turn it twice, and put that end through the loop there. That should be enough to make the knot. I'm going to use this tree as my anchor point, put it around. You start, this end of the rope is going to go through where the rope came out over here, and place it in. I pull the knot a bit closer to the tree, and I follow the other rope all the way around. And then I must come out where the rope went in, and there we have a rethreaded figure 8 knot. Okay, to make a standard figure 8 on the bight knot, you take a rope like that, doubled, and that's called a bight of rope, and hold the two strands together. You take it around, not through there, but through there, and you pull the loop through, and there we have a standard figure 8 on the bight knot. And I'm going to clip it into the anchor point over here. To make a clove hitch, you simply do this. You take the rope like so, crossing it over, and then the opposing side, and you pass the second loop behind the first, and you can clip it in, and there we've got the clove hitch. And it is easily, if one wants to adjust it, it's very easy. You simply push the one side and you can pull the other one, or vice versa. You can go the other way to create different amounts of tension in the two ropes. We're going to show you how to tie a standard double fisherman's knot. Double fisherman's is the standard way of joining two ropes together. It's a very good knot, very safe knot, and it's also useful if you're tying two ropes of different diameters. One of the places you'll need one of these knots is when you tie a rope like that for your prusik cords. It's also a way of tying two ropes together if you're going to abseil. And one of the points about it is that it becomes a very tight knot, very safe, but is hard to undo if it's been under tension, or if it's become wet. So this is how you tie it. Okay, I'm using two ropes, same diameter but different colors, so it's easier to see what is going on. You start off with the one side and bringing this blue rope around, And it is important to notice that there's a cross that forms in the rope here. You get that cross, and then you bring the rope back in that direction, and you can go as many times as you like, but I'm going to use 3 wraps in this one. And then you take the end of the rope and you pass it through, and you pass it underneath the cross that formed in the beginning. So then there's one of the knots. Now we're going to do the yellow rope, and starting off again, and there's the cross forming again there, and pass it back 3 times, and passing the end of the rope back underneath the cross and out. And then you simply take the 2 strands and you pull them up together. In order to make a overhand knot, it's very simple. You take a bight of rope and you bring it round. First time you take it around, you pull it through, and there you've got a overhand knot. Just compare that, an overhand knot, to what a figure 8 knot looks like. You can see that they don't look the same. Now the overhand knot is not unsafe if one made it to climb with or to tie in with. However, the problem with it, and why climbers tend not to use it, is that it becomes too tight. However, overhand knots are quite often used in a situation where you've got several strands of rope and you want to make them into one focal point. And this is what you would do. I've got 3 strands of rope here. Now to tie these into a figure 8 on the bight would be quite hard and becomes a very bulky knot. So using the overhand knot, it's a very useful way of tying several ropes in, and there we have all 3 strands and a focal point being formed. To make a standard double figure 8 on the bight, simply take the rope like this. You're going to take quite a long strand here because you're going to end up with 2 loops at the end of it. Take it round, same way that you made the other kind of figure 8 on the bight. But when you bring this loop, these 2 loops through here, you don't bring them all the way. You take the other loop, you flip it over, and pull it through like that. Now you've got 2 loops at that point. So the joy of this rope, of this kind of system, is that you can clip this one rope now into 2 anchor points, and then you can make one longer or one shorter depending on what your needs are. And I'm going to do this one. I'm going to make that one a bit shorter, push it through like so, and in order to equalize the anchor point. Okay, to make a bowline knot, this is how you do it, and I'm going to use a tree as an anchor point here. It's also a knot which climbers use to tie into their harnesses with, but here we're just using it simply in an anchor position. Put the rope around whatever you want to use. You then take this side of the rope, going down and around like that. You take this end of the rope, you put it up through that hole there, bring it a bit closer, drop it over underneath the rope which is exiting the knot, and back out there, and that's what the knot looks like. Note that this is the point where any kind of tension will be held on it, and bowlines are best used with some kind of a blocking knot on it, and I'm going to use a couple of hitches here and put that through, and that will ensure that the bowline, which is doing all the work in this case, doesn't come apart. There are a few dangers with the bowline, one particular danger, and that is that a bowline is made to receive tension only on that rope, the outgoing rope. Never place anchor points on this side or on that side, as it will tend to pull this knot out, and there have been at least 2 accidents in South Africa resulting from bowlines being pulled in the wrong direction. In order to make a MUNTER hitch, these knots are also called friction hitches, Italian hitches, or HMS knots. It's very similar to a CLOVE hitch, but is used in a very kind of different scenario. A MUNTER hitch is used to create kind of friction in a system, and you can in fact abseil on this knot, or you can belay with using a MUNTER hitch, and it is one of the standard ways of belaying abseilers in commercial kind of scenarios. In order to make the MUNTER hitch, this is what you do. You start it as same as for a CLOVE hitch, taking the 2 loops, opposing the 2 loops, but instead of putting them together to make a CLOVE hitch, you twist that one around and you place it on a wide pear-shaped carabiner, also often called an HMS carabiner, named after the HMS knot. And close your carabiner, and then you'll see that the MUNTER hitch creates friction around the carabiner, but it also flips around like so. When you place a MUNTER hitch, make sure that you're using a large wide mouth carabiner like this, a pear-shaped or MUNTER hitch carabiner. If you use one like I'm using here, which has got a narrow area here, or even worse, if you flip the carabiner around like that, what occurs is that the knot can't flip through the carabiner, and you can see here it jams like so. Okay, in order to make a MUNTER MULE knot. Now, a MUNTER MULE is simply 2 half hitches placed on a MUNTER knot in order to tie the knot off. The good part about a MUNTER MULE is that this rope, which is the one which would normally be under tension in an abseil kind of scenario, is that you can tie it off and it'll be under tension, and then you can untie it under tension also. It's very simple, and there are in fact 2 ways to make this knot. So to make the MUNTER MULE, take the opposing side, make sure that this knot is in the downward position, and you form a loop like that. You push the dead rope through that side, pull some rope through, cinch it up, and then tie a half hitch in this direction so that this loop is going in the direction of where the tension is. And then to make absolutely sure that it is tied off correctly, simply take an ordinary carabiner will do, and you clip it to that rope itself. The other way to tie off a MUNTER knot with a MUNTER MULE, slightly different system, but I find that many students battle to grasp this one, is that you take 2 half hitches like so, and you simply put that one through there, coming out the front, cinch it up, and then you make another one coming out, always this loop always out towards the tension side, and then again take a clip gate carabiner and you just lock it off on there. Alright, to undo a MUNTER MULE, this is how you do it, and remembering that This rope here is under tension. It's got somebody's weight on in an abseil kind of situation normally. Simply take the carabiner off. You've got a loop of rope there. You get rid of that carabiner. You then start to undo that half hitch there, and you can place your hand over the knot itself, pull it apart, and then pull this loop through here and gently pull it through, and there we're back to the MUNTER hitch, and you can start to release it now.